Oh, this just might be embarrassing. This is Austin Gardner, and I'm here with Jeff Bush, and we are doing our first live broadcast with Leadership with Vision. We do a podcast regularly, and so we're fixing to go to make the podcast, and we'll see if anybody joins in with us today and says anything to us. And so anyway, we're about to get started. Yeah, fix that there, please. And so I'm going to go ahead and... Is everything working right, Jeffrey?
I think I've never done this.
You've never done this before. I've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing, right? Let me see, while we're waiting here to see if anybody shows up, let me go over to Facebook and see if I see us. Is it showing us up as doing anything over here? Or maybe we're not even working. This is an old guy with a non-computer guy, and we're trying to figure this out and see if it's working. Uh-oh. Eric Elrod. Eric, can you just tell us? Okay, Eric says it's working. All right. So.
He says we're looking good. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're fixing to go live. You can ask questions and discuss things. We're just going to carry on a chat. Trent Corwell's the one told us to do this. And I'm here in my Burkina Faso shirt. Can you read those texts? I can't even see them.
Yes. Eric says we're looking good. And now Ronald Duvias is on there. Clayton
So
Cox.
we're going to go ahead and start up the podcast, and you'll be live with us, and we'll read your comments and go off on that. And so let me go ahead and start this. Welcome to Leadership with Vision. This is Austin Gardner and Jeff Bush. We're your host, and we're excited. This is our first time to do this on Facebook. We're actually on Facebook Live at the same time. And Jeff, you want to go ahead and give a greeting to everybody, and then we'll start in on what you got to talk about today.
All right. Well, greetings to my friends that are out there, specifically those that are on the mission field, those that are on deputation, raising their funds, getting to the field. And I pray that what we speak about today will be a help, maybe a blessing and encouragement to you.
We're in a series about what you do in the first 2 years, and we're going to take a little bit of a detour. It'll still be on that same topic, but we're going to take a little bit of a detour, and we're going to talk about getting that church started. Isn't that the kind of the idea we have in mind there?
That's correct.
So go ahead, Jeff, and start up with some of the first things you want to discuss.
Okay, so the idea comes, our friend Paul Talby, who's a missionary in Nepal right now. He's serving the Lord, and he just rented his first building to start their first church. We're excited for him, and he was showing us a little bit about the building, the size of it, what's going on, a little bit of his plans. So I thought maybe we can discuss this. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what to do when the church first starts, or maybe even the pre-church launch, how you get it ready, how you get the building, what to do to get the people there, keep the people there. So, I'm looking forward to this.
All right. Well, we've got Clayton Cox and Ronald Tobias and Eric Elrod and Jose Santana.
He says, nice shirt, Hefe.
And then we also have Trent Corwell here with us.
Boom.
And Greg has joined in.
Yes.
So anyway, let's get down to it. We're talking about starting a church, and so we want to talk to you about when you get ready to start that church. You're getting ready to start. You got your building, and you're going to figure out what to go and do next. And so go ahead there, Jeff, with the first comment you have.
Okay, so obviously you're going to set the date. Whatever the date may be, it's going to be in March of next year, or whenever it's going to be. You're about 2 months out from starting the church. You're going to clean it up, get it all ready. So probably the first thing outside of the obvious general cleaning and, getting the church sign, checking all that out, would be blitzing the area. And so you're going to print something up, you're going to blitz the area, make a lot of noise so that they know you're there.
Obviously, we're talking to people that are in open countries. If you're in a creative access country, you're going to adapt anything. Both of us worked in South America, and so that's where our advice would come from. Jason Holt, who's in Chile, has done a great job of setting up some things that let me just mention to you that I think would help. He does 4 or 5 weeks, and that he makes up a different invitation every week, 10,000 of them, and they just tag all 10,000 doors one week, and then hit the same 10,000 doors the next week, and so on for 5 weeks, inviting the people to the lunch service. Now, he uses English. Paul can't use English because everybody already speaks English, and so he would only use that as a last resort. But we want to make a lot of noise. We want everybody in the community to know we're there, and we're inviting as many people as we possibly can.
So by saying English, obviously we're speaking of, for those who don't know, we're speaking of English classes, maybe anything you can use to get a big group of people there and tell them, hey, by the way, this is also a church. We have services on Sunday. You're welcome to come back. But on an off night, some evangelistic tool that you can use, such as English class or, anything else.
Right now, Paul's plans are to have some youth nights and to show some good Christian films like Facing the Giants. And they'll be in English, but the people speak enough English and they'll like it. And then he'll be able to get them in the church, get all their contact info, and talk to them. Now, we got a question from Eric Elrod about how large of an area do you blitz? How many weeks out and how many flyers and tracks? So the area that, I would suggest mainly working on an area where they can walk to church. Unless you're in a place where people drive a lot, England, probably some European countries, the United States, go where they can walk to it and have them go out there. 10,000 houses is what you're looking at hitting. That's a lot of people. If you can figure an average of 4 people to a house, that's 40,000 people that'll be getting your invitation, and they'll get it 5 times over. And you start this about 4 or 5 weeks before your big launch date, and you start having some meetings with people that show interest. And you start also taking down every name and address and telephone number and making friends on Facebook and putting out Facebook ads. You're doing everything you can to get to know as many people as you can. Go ahead, Jeff.
So we spoke a couple podcasts ago about, the strategy of, learning your city, getting to know it, how you can study it out. And I think you need to know in your area, how do most of the people get to where they're going? Most people don't have cars. So in our areas of South America, a lot of people get there by bicycle. Some of them have mopeds. Some of them even come on bus transportation. But the majority of people, they would end up walking. So obviously when you're going to, blitz an area, per se, you're going to blitz an area of, so many blocks out.
In Peru, I like to think in terms of 10 blocks.
Okay.
That's a kilometer about in Peru. It's about 20-minute walk for a man and his family, because I'm not really just going to get teenagers and children. And I know that I am really preparing this work for the guy that's going to follow me. This work isn't about what I'm getting for me. It is that I am preparing a work that another man will take over when I leave. So you want to bear that in mind while you're getting this church going.
And so you're gonna think you're gonna have your idea in your head. Okay, we're gonna start on March 21st or whatever. And so starting that, you're gonna go ahead and print that track or that invitation on March 21st, Inauguration Day or
Let's
Launch
go ahead
Day
and tell them you would have a problem in Argentina. And Paul was mentioning he would have it. There's a really bad time to start a church.
Sure. Yeah. There's certain months, obviously. Example in Argentina, January and February are the vacation seasons. A lot of
That's
them,
summertime for those that don't know, that are Northern Hemisphere people.
And so a lot of times the real estate offices, a lot of the companies, they'll
Even
close down.
Even restaurants will close down for a whole month.
For a month. And so you don't want to do anything in January and February. In March, school's just starting, kicking up. And that's the way the school semester goes there. And so that's when people are coming back. You want to do
you
it.
might aim towards Easter like that. At least in a Roman Catholic country where I was, Easter is a really spiritual time and Christmas is. But you got to bear in mind the calendar in the country you're working in.
Yeah, you definitely want to look at that. So you name a time, you say, okay, this will work out good because of weather, because they're in school, or because, whatever it may be. You work out this time. And then you're going to put this on an invitation. And once you put it on, you make an attractive invitation. Hey, come out. This is for the whole family. We're going to be studying.
That might even address when they would give out their invitations. If you give out the invitations and everybody's at the beach, which is what would happen in South America, it wouldn't be the best time.
Correct.
So you don't want to start the first day they come back from the beach.
Right.
So I don't know if you're catching that. That's different in every country. Paul already knows that. He flat out told me, this is when they're doing this and this. And so we all have to bear that in mind about the country we're working in.
And so you've studied how they're going to get there and the best time as far as, calendaring. And then you're going to print this out, and I would say print out thousands of them. I mean, at least let's go for 10,000. And your goal for, I would say 2 months out?
Yeah, 2 months out.
And start just blitzing the area. And I would say blitzing the area would mean, at least in my mind, I would say, hit every house as far as whether you're going to knock on the doors and talk to them, or you're going to throw it underneath the door or put it in a bag.
In a lot of the countries, the houses are so close.
Sure.
You can just about run and throw the things in there. And like in Latin America, that's where I would talk about with some authority. They are used to getting papers and bills just thrown under their garage door or above their door into their house or through a mail slot, and you don't really knock on their door.
And when we say blitz, I mean, we're talking about, you can do all kinds of things. If there's big old poster-like things that you can hang out on the corner.
On the fence, on the light post.
Right.
In the stores.
We even had in Argentina, it's called a pasacalle. It goes across the street. It's like a burlap sack, and it goes from one side of the street to the other.
It's called a banner in English.
Okay.
It's a banner in English that hangs from one side to the other and announces the church.
Glad we have someone very intelligent doing this podcast.
Yeah. Another thing some of the guys in Peru used to do back in the old days is they would get on a bus close to the church, and they would just get up and pass out invitations and announce to everybody on the bus. And about 3 or 4 blocks down, they get off the bus and catch the next bus coming back in. And so they knew what times the buses were loaded, and usually they didn't even have to pay because they only went 3 buses. And they told the guy, "We're just going to make an announcement," and he let them do that.
And a lot of people, at least in South American countries, a lot of people they let them on the bus to sell candy, bottles of water, and other different things. So that's a very valid effort as well. So you're gonna make all this noise. We even put it in the newspaper for 4 weeks straight, 4 weekends straight to the launch service. We even had it on the radio.
Sometimes you can put it as an ad.
Yes,
sometimes you can just stick your paper in with the people that deliver the paper.
And so whatever you do, I mean, sometimes you can go into a restaurant or a photocopy shop, whatever it may be, coffee shop, and they'll let you put a big, poster up on the wall saying this announcement, a bulletin board. You're going to do everything you can to make as much noise 2 months prior to the launch service.
It is good to think of something you could do, like Paul wants to use some videos, and in the South America, a lot of the guys will use an English class, or in China, they'll use an English class, and that gets you that first contact. Something I like to remind people of when you're starting a church is they got to like you. At first, they're not going to come hear the gospel and be saved in one quick interaction. So you have got to be friendly, and you've got to win them to you. So they got to come in, and your building has got to be right. I mean, it's got to be set up in such a way that they're going to want to be there. They're going to enjoy being in the environment. So that, we're going to talk a little bit about the building also. But when you meet them on the street, you have got to be friendly and upbeat and happy and excited. You've got to be speaking the language well. You've got to be motivating and challenging, or they're not going to want to come.
Let me jump a little bit further even into that and say, how you're getting ready to be the pastor of the church or someone serious. You might think, I don't need to wear a tie, or I do need, however you think. But
you probably don't want to be out in flip-flops and shorts.
Correct.
Because if you go too informal, people are going to think this guy's not serious. You're not a boy delivering pizza invitations.
Right. You want people to think, hey, that's that pastor, or that's that religious guy. Whatever they think, you're the different guy. So in the proper type of whether it's going to be a shirt and tie, or whether it's going to be a nice, the Filipino styled shirt, or whatever they do in your country, be someone who looks respectful, somebody that when you're walking out, you don't have a problem if they say, hey, you the pastor, and you can open up the conversation. You look distinguished. You look like an important person there.
Quite a few of you have joined the Facebook Live thing. If you have a friend that's not in the group, feel free to invite them. We would like to get this message out to as many people working around the world as possible. So if you have a friend and you want to invite them, you feel free. And you be leaving comments and talking with us. Thank you for joining us. We got Jason King and Travis Snowd and Bethany Staley and Hannah Shreve that I can see on the screen right now. We're sure glad you're here with us today. So you want to move to the building now?
Yes, sir. Let's move on.
Do you have a sign? And what kind of sign do you got? Make it colorful, alive, where people will notice it off the street. Maybe make sure it's angled out. Get some signs on the corners. What else would you say about signs?
Yeah, I would say the sign, you have one that has the lights in it. So at night, it automatically turns on and it brightens up. I would say probably put the sign up high enough. Every country is different. In Argentina, if you don't put it up high enough, they're going to spray paint on it. They're going to throw rocks at it.
At the same time, I have been in churches in South America that had the sign 3 stories up and nobody could see it. So, like I was at one church, I was had been invited to preach in Lima one time, and And I was driving up and down in front of the road of the street. And finally, I called the guy, and he said, "We've seen you going by." And he said, "You didn't see our sign, but their sign was like 4 stories up." And so, no, I did not see your sign. I was in my car. So make sure your sign's visible. And hey, have some signs that point to where you are around the town, and maybe find a landmark. At least in a country like Peru where I worked, it was good to be able to say across from the phone company, across from the certain tienda, the store. You need a landmark so people know exactly where you're talking about.
On the same sign, it would be good that you, obviously the church name, whatever, and underneath, maybe you can put the times of the services. Sunday we meet at 10 or, at 5 p.m. or, have a couple of the activities on there. So put a big sign out there.
And I would go ahead and start with a bunch of services. I know that may seem contradictory. You're like, nobody will come to one. Well, what am I going to do with 2 or 3? But the more hooks you have in the water, the more people you're liable to catch. And somebody that wouldn't show up for Sunday morning might show up for Sunday night, or they might show up for a midweek service. And if they were like in the people I worked with, the Roman Catholic, they're only going to go once a week anyway. And the Catholic Church would offer Mass at all different times. And so I would have a lot of different options available for people to come. And yes, it's a pain for you because you might just show up there and nobody be there. And you're like, I had to go to church and nobody came. But if you could have Sunday morning, Sunday night, midweek, maybe a youth night, it'll open doors for you to get more people into church.
I highly agree that. Man, I echo that. It's very important. The tendency, I think, is to think, well, when we get so many people, then I'll open up Sunday night and then I'll open up midweek. And that is an idea, but I would say, man, just start off with
McDonald's doesn't open
boom.
for 1 hour a week. Mm-hmm. And McDonald's realizes that some people are coming for breakfast and others are coming for lunch and others are coming for supper and others are going to stumble in during the day. I even like having my church building where I can be there and people can come around, and it's just kind of like open all the time, well, except at night, obviously, when you're asleep. But because people need to know they can get in touch with you, people need to know that they can come to church.
Here's a couple different reasons. When we started out in Argentina, we had all the Sunday morning, Sunday night, even the Sunday school, the midweek, the youth night. When we did all this, we had different people come Sunday morning than would come Sunday night because of their jobs or schedule, whatever. But different people came. And when they did come, some people, as they began to get a little bit more faithful, those that did come, they grew quicker because they had more opportunities. And I would say you need more opportunities.
We're not having one message all the time. We're changing messages all the time.
Sure, and you realize as a missionary, your goal is you want somebody to replace you so that when you go on the mission field or when you go on furlough or whatever it may be, so you want them to have more opportunities, not less opportunities.
And you're going to move on to another church. And by the way, Jeff, just to remind you, when you first started, every missionary in Argentina was mainly Sunday night.
Sure.
And they told you nobody would come on Sunday morning. If you remember that?
I definitely remember that.
And before your ministry was over, you had your biggest crowds when?
Sunday morning.
Which everybody said they wouldn't come, but they did come. And maybe the reason they never came for the other guys, they didn't ever offer it. A lot of them were only doing Sunday school on Sunday morning for the children.
Right.
And I would just say to you, offer everything you can. I'd have a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I just do it all the time because I'm there to reach people with the gospel. And it's my job.
Yes, sir. That's right. And
Glad to have you with us, Daniel Cooper.
And when we started, so there were multiple, and people said that it wouldn't work, and later it did, and we surpassed there. But, a lot of people even said, we don't have anybody that's strong in the ministry that I can turn a ministry over to, or they could pastor, or they could preach. Well, it wasn't hard for us in our ministry to have somebody more mature. And the reason was we had 4 services a week. They only had 1 a week. And so our guys were growing 4 times quicker.
And they're practicing and they're doing ministry.
Right.
And they can have so many options and opportunities.
They're listening, they're growing,
And that's not counting your discipleship.
And correct, yes, sir.
That's discipleship outside of that, visitation outside of that. All right, let's go inside the building.
Okay, we're going to go inside the building. I would say, when you start off, you have no idea what to expect. You don't know, you passed out thousands, but most likely you're not going to have thousands show up, or at least stay. And so if you have a big old room, narrow it down some. Only put the chairs in a certain spot. Maybe put, some tables at the back, or maybe even put some walls up. Some what are these walls? Gesso, durlock.
Sheetrock.
Some sheetrock.
Or
that's going to be cheap to put up.
Real cheap plywood. You could use curtains, but they tend not to do much with the sound. And they, at least in the country I was in, they would get dirty really quick.
So you want them to go in there, man. You want to fill that thing up, and so don't have a giant room because otherwise, they walk in there in a little bit corner. It's
I think
depressing.
a lot of times a preacher's kind of like a boy. When I was a boy, my daddy would say that my eyes were bigger than my stomach when I
Right.
served my plate, because I could go load a plate down with all this food, then I couldn't eat it. And if you get too big a room, it actually looks worse to have 100 chairs and 10 people show up than it would to have 10 people show up and you have 10 chairs out and you have to get 5 more for anybody that come late. You want to kind of have this idea, man, we didn't expect all of you and we're growing. This is exciting.
Your eyes will play tricks on you, and so they'll encourage you or discourage you.
And them.
Correct. Yeah, and they'll look in and they'll say, "No way am I coming." I mean, there's nobody in here. When my brother and I will catch a fish, my brother he gets the camera and he holds it here. He gets a fish and he holds it right next to the fish.
What if your brother's listening?
Good, I hope he is. I do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
But it makes it look like, I mean, you get a little bitty, sun bass, little sunfish, and it looks like giant because you got it right next to, So make your room. I say that to make the room a smaller room so that you can fill it up, and then you can break out those walls, or you can add
separate
more
the chairs a little bit more. Make sure everything is clean. Make sure everything is presentable. Make sure the room is very well decorated. It'd be good to even have Bible verses written on the wall. Make sure you have music playing when they come in. You don't want it to feel like you're at a funeral or you're dead when they walk in. So you want something happening when they walk into the room. Make sure you have greeters. Make sure you have information to put in their hand when they leave. So when you got a visitor's card type thing to get their info, and when they leave, you put a gospel witness in their hand so that even if they leave early, somebody's back there giving those out.
I would say a lot of people that would be listening think, man, well, when I start out, I'm not going to have greeters and ushers, and I'm not going to have all these people. But when you start off right away, you're going to be meeting people, and you're going to be meeting them and visiting them. So right away, you can say he doesn't even have to be saved to be, stand at the back of the door and welcome people in. I mean, that's okay.
Yeah, and in fact, the more people can be involved, the more they'll enjoy the church.
And I would say let everybody be involved. Obviously not preach, obviously not sing.
They're going to be giving the welcome, giving out flyers, giving out whatever, maybe a snack or whatever gift that you have. You want them to help you doing all that.
So when they walk in that room, so they're on the street, they see this big old sign, they've received a invitation, they walk in, what do they see? So you want it to be presentable, it's nicely painted, it's well done. There's music in the background that it doesn't make someone nervous like, oh man, there's so much silence. There's instrumental music playing, whether you plug it in your phone, however you do it, it's just lightly playing in the background. There's somebody at the door, and until you get somebody, it's you yourself. Hey, welcome, come on in. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. You make the atmosphere seem friendly, wonderful, and people are attracted to that. They'll want to be a part of that.
And your wife has to be upbeat and happy, and your kids got to be there. So you've got to have gotten everybody prepared for that, so that when they come to church, and you can't let your wife use the children as an excuse not to be involved.
Yeah, your kids actually attract other people, believe it or not. They'll attract families and other children, and that's a good thing. And so, even if your wife's shy, hey, dear, they're getting ready to come in. This is the game day. This is what we practice for. Put a smile on and just say, hey, welcome, and get them in.
And don't let your children be an excuse for you to hide out in the nursery. So you have now got baskets ready to take up the offering. By the way, if very few people come, I don't stand up and preach. If only 4 or 5 people are there, I'm going to put them in a circle. And I'm going to sit down and talk to them and make it relaxed. Don't make it feel weird to them. If there's 20 people, 10 people, you could stand. If there's 3 people, it might feel a tad strange to have a big auditorium set up and you standing up there preaching.
And you don't want to put out 100 chairs. Pastor just said, leave them separated. So you're going to put 20, 30 chairs. And if you have to add more, man, that's kind of exciting.
Have them ready.
Yeah, definitely have them stacked at the back, ready. You can easily grab them.
Get one of the visitors to help you get them.
Sure. Hey, man, that would get them involved, and that would, they would feel part.
All right, what else you got?
Okay, so I was thinking the music's in. You've got some Bible verses hung on the back of the wall, or
you got Bibles for the visitors to use.
Definitely,
because they're going to need to open a Bible.
And so, even have whether you're gonna for the singing, they don't know the songs. So obviously, you're
Hey,
going to put
Abby,
the song.
my granddaughter's watching, and she says, "Hi, Granddaddy."
So Eric
Hi,
Elrod,
Abby.
Eric Elrod says, how would you set up the inside, decorations, etc.?
Go ahead.
I would say, when we first got down there, I found somebody in the city who painted. I mean, just they would paint signs, and so I had them come into our church, and on the back of, I preached, say this was the pulpit area. Behind it, I had him paint a big, the world map, and then underneath Mark 16:15 on the sidewalls, I put, "Be in my house, we will serve the Lord," and I put Bible verses. That way.
And very nice.
Very nice. You want it professionally done. I mean, pay the guy. You might even do it another way, but you want it looked very presentable, very professional, very nice. And so you're saying about decorations, I would definitely do that.
And get your chairs set up where it looks comfortable and inviting. And the pulpit, you don't want to have a platform that's so high that it makes you
Right.
look awkward or weird. And again, you probably don't want to stand up if to preach to them if there's just a handful that show up. And the main thing is you. I mean, more important than anything is, are you friendly, outgoing, interesting, exciting? Can you talk? Are you fun?
I would say there's some actually good books, if I can just veer away from it a little bit. There's some very good books that would help you. Ones on how to work a room. Many people communicate, few connect. There's a lot of good books. There's one teaching on preaching. There's a lot of good books that I personally think could be very helpful, whether there's a small group or big group, how to interact with them, how to help them. So they walked in the building, and now they're in. So when the service, let's talk a little bit about the preaching. I realize we're going on. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the preaching.
Go ahead.
But now, we were saying you want people to come and you want people to come back. So to get them, obviously you've invited them, invitations, big sign, maybe activities, maybe youth meeting. We could talk about that. But now you want to keep them. And so you're preaching. It's, we got to be careful. It's got to be practical.
Don't try to be a show off. Don't try to preach like you're in America. Tell the stories of the Bible and make them exciting. Don't preach so long they leave bored. Your language is already a hindrance. So the songs, you sing the same songs week after week, and they're simple, upbeat songs till they can learn them. They don't know the songs. The messages, you got to be very careful that the messages are simple, simple, simple. Gospel messages, Bible stories, in such a way that a person leaves there. Remember, they got to have one thing they know when they leave. You got one major point and you're making it.
And, most countries outside the United States are lackadaisical and starting. They say, hey, man, we're just not in a hurry. This is how we do it. You don't understand my country. But you know what? People want to finish on time. And so if you want to be professional,
First
start on
question
time.
they ask me, at what time is it over?
You start on time, end on time. If it starts at 7, start. I don't care if there's 2 people there, but start. But at 8 or, the 8:15, whatever time you say, then go ahead and end it. Let them know you come on time because we start on time, we end on time. And that's pretty professional. That's very important, I
By
think.
the way, I noticed that Bo Carpenter has joined, and Gretchen Masters. Gretchen's here, and Gretchen and her husband have just returned from. Tunisia. Her mother has gone to heaven, and Gretchen, we love you, and we are praying for you, and wish that we could be there. And Brady, we're glad that you've joined in also. So thank you so much for being with us today. Do you want to save the rest for another day, or
Yeah, maybe we should. I think for our podcast anyway, we're a little bit over.
Yeah, we may go into another Facebook event right here, but for right now, we're going to go ahead and stop, and we'll look at talking about some of this in another podcast. Now, the podcast will come out a week or 2 from now. I mean, it won't. We're going to do 2 or 3, and they're going to be done live. So you're going to be here in the studio with us the way we do it. The studio is my living room or dining room, and so you'll be here with us. But if you listen to the podcast, this won't come out for another couple 3 weeks. You might rather listen to it because you can put us on double time and get finished quicker. But thank you so much for being with us. Remember to go by worldevangelism.net for more information. Put any comments or questions you have in this group and invite anybody you want to be involved. We would like to have more people we could talk to and share how to do this ministry on the field. Any words?
No, sir. I think for those that are getting ready or preparing, starting a church, this is an exciting thing, a very exciting time. So I hope this will be a help to you and a blessing to you.
So invite somebody to come and listen to Leadership with Vision. Help us grow this for His honor, for His glory. Invite anybody you want and make any comments you want. And of course, within reason, or they would end up getting deleted. But we are very thankful for you, thankful for the opportunity. Thank you for listening to this, our first ever live broadcast on Facebook, and this will be coming out on Leadership with Vision podcast in a few weeks. God bless every one of you. You want to stop that?
All right.
You know how to stop it? He don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to stop it. Finish.